Hey everybody, welcome back to EDFF. I'm Ding, and tonight we'll talk about some waiver acquisitions to target or avoid this week. And if you enjoy these podcasts, text a friend, tell them to give us a listen and spread the word. All right, let's take a look at injuries from week 6 and how that's going to affect your waiver strategy for week 7. Carr is still out and Rattler has no receivers. May is in and has potential. He threw 3 touchdowns this week. ETN has a shoulder injury, no update yet. Russell Wilson looks like he's going to be starting. Fields is in trouble. Brian Robinson, no update. Singletary, no update. Tracy could have another decent week. Goddard has a hamstring problem, but no update. Calcaterra is a target. Richardson, here we go, second week in a row. He'll start when he's healthy. Okay, so that's if Flacco loses. Copy. Aaron Jones, he's week to week, and then they traded for Akers. Ruh-roh. Speaking of trades, Adams went to the Jets. Cooper went to Buffalo. There was much rejoicing. Olave didn't practice. Shaheed didn't practice. Taysom Hill was limited. Kamara was limited. MVS got released. Mike Williams soon to be traded? Question mark. And my favorite, Pittman. He can go on IR at any time he feels like it. Trade him now. All right. Remember, there's a lot going on, so if you don't have time to monitor all these guys, follow me on X. You'll get updates as soon as I do, and I'll answer your questions. Now let's look at some key waiver wire ads you should be targeting or avoiding. We're only looking at ones that are less than 50% rostered. Waiver teams this week are the Bears and the Cowboys. But next week, there are no teams on the bye, so keep that in mind. The names we're going to talk about here can be 1 to 2 week replacements, or they could be long term. I'll try to be specific if I think one or the other. At the quarterback position, let's start with May. He's 6% owned going up against Jacksonville. He threw 3 touchdowns last week. He also got some rushing. I think he could give you 20 to 25 points per week. Yes, I know he has bad interceptions, and he could probably fumble. He's a rookie, but he has a lot of potential moving forward. Second quarterback is Nix. He's 11% owned. He's up against New Orleans. Now, it's Thursday Night Football this week. It's a short turnaround. He's going up against the Saints, who are reeling from injuries. He's probably going to have 1 to 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing. The third is Wilson. I don't know if he's going to start. I mean, all the comments out there. He's only 3% owned. There's a chance there. And then the fourth one, if you're considering Rattler, don't. He's up against Denver. It's a short week. He's probably out his top 2 wide receivers. And that's just trouble. All right, moving on to running backs. First one is Guerendo, 4% owned versus KC. It's a tough defense, but if Mason stays out, it's like 20 touches guaranteed. And the kid's got talent, so I would definitely go after him. The second one is Ray Davis. We all saw him on Monday Night Football. He was great. He's going to face another tough defense against the run in Tennessee. He's only 14% owned, so he's probably out there. He's really talented. And now that they have Cooper on the team, that's going to open up more scoring opportunities. There's still the threat of Allen vulturing his touchdowns just like last week, but he can give you a solid PPR night. A little bit deeper, there's Goodson. He's 4% owned. He's the best back, as far as I'm concerned, in Indianapolis, behind JT. But if JT comes up, he's in trouble. He has a great matchup this week as far as Goodson is concerned, so he would be a great target. Next is Jalen Wright out of Miami. Now that's all about, is it A-Chain? How is Mostert feeling? But I think Jalen Wright showed a lot more potential than Mostert did. So I think he's a decent pickup if A-Chain doesn't play. Otherwise, don't go after him. And then last, I know everyone's thinking, they're talking about him. Tucker, he looked great. That's awesome. There are 2 running backs in front of him. Yeah, one of them's hurt right now. But if Rashad White comes back, Bucky Irving is the number 2. And then there's Tucker. But the secret's out on Tucker. Everyone underestimated him. They won't underestimate him anymore. All right, moving on to wide receiver. We'll start off with Douglas. He's May's top target right now. He's only 8% owned up against Jacksonville. Yeah, I know it's a small sample size, 1 game. Jacksonville is tough on the outsides, and he's going to be facing outside pressure. But, I mean, there's a potential here for 8 to 10 looks. Do I think he gets a touchdown against Jacksonville? Yeah, I'm not going to guarantee that. But this is a guy moving forward that May seems to trust right now. And Polk has a lot of issues, so I like Douglas here. Second one is Watson on a Green Bay. Now he's 42% owned. They're going up against Houston. It's a potential shootout. I prefer him over Dobbs. I mean, Dobbs got his 2 touchdowns, so he can stop skipping practices and whining or whatever it is he is doing, and he can just go back to doing his JOB. I like Watson. The third one is Bub Means. Yeah, I know everyone saw him. 0% owned, so I know he's out there. But he's up against Denver on a short week. This is a trap. Don't go after him. even if Surtain doesn't play, which he likely won't because of a concussion, they're going to struggle against Denver, which is still a good defense on a short week. This has just got train wreck written all over it. Next week, he's useless because Olave and Shaheed will probably return, so I would just avoid Bub Means and let somebody else fight over him. Additional wide receivers, if Cooper's out there, you need to grab him, obviously, just in case somebody, just got PO'd and dropped him. And then the last one I'll give you is Wilson out of Arizona. He's 16% owned, but they're going up against the Chargers, and that's really tough. Without Harrison to draw coverage away from Wilson, I think Wilson's gonna draw some decent coverage. And he only had 4 targets after Harrison went out, so I don't really see him getting a big target share. At the tight end position, my first one is Calcaterra. He's 0% owned. He's up against the Giants. If Goddard can't play, he absorbs his targets. And he had a really nice game. It's a division battle, should be good. I think he sees a lot of targets, even with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith back. The second one is Henry. He's 26% owned, so he may not be out there. He's up against Jacksonville. May looks at him for red zone opportunities in addition to Douglas. I think young quarterbacks look at tight ends, and I think Henry's in a good spot to be a week-to-week player. And then last is Jonnu Smith, 4% owned. He's up against Indianapolis. Now, Huntley threw him 8 targets last week. I think he was the target hog in that game. They're coming off a bye. That opens up more of the playbook for Huntley. If Huntley starts, I think Jonnu Smith sees another 8 targets. All right, and last we'll talk is defense. First one, I know everyone's talking about it, Cincinnati. 18% owned, so they're probably out there. They're up against Cleveland. Yep, the Cleveland that just got rid of Cooper. There's a little bit of a trap here, though. Chubb might return for week 7, and he is dominant. Now, he hasn't played a long time. Do I think they'll be scaling his reps in? Yes. But it also has the potential where he does 25 carries and gives you like 2 touchdowns. Just saying. I don't think it's a home run, but I think since he should come away with at least a couple of interceptions on Watson and probably keep the game low scoring. The second defense I think is a little bit underrated is the Rams. They're only 2% owned, and they're going up against Vegas. It's Vegas. Do I need to say any more? Okay. Last defense we'll talk about is Jacksonville. They're 4% owned. They're at home against New England, against a rookie quarterback. I'm thinking 3 sacks and at least 2 turnovers, so you're going to get some points there. Now, again, like I said, looking ahead, week 8, there are no teams on the bye. Monitor injury updates for this week before you put your waivers in. Check my X feed for updates to help you plan. And a reminder, try to look 2 weeks out at least to deconflict issues for your team, especially if you stream defenses and kickers, because you probably can only hold on to one in each category. So you need to look 2 weeks ahead and be prepared. Also, it's a good time now to sell high and trade those guys who had a surprise week, like Pittman and Andrews, before you get to your trade deadlines. Now, before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to our men and women in uniform who protect the freedoms we hold dear. Thank you for your service and sacrifice. That'll do it for tonight. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and follow us on X, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you can stay up to date on the latest content. And until then, remember, established dominance isn't just a catchphrase, it's a commitment. Are you ready?